Hey friends, and welcome in to A Walk Through the Word, Daily Bread with Crystal Fry. I am your host, Crystal Fry, and I'm excited to bring you this week's guest conversation all about your dreams. My guest this week is Debby Krusz, author, business consultant, and certified dream manager coach. Debby is a survivor of crushed dreams and an expert in dream rescue, helping both individuals and employers go further down the path to realizing their dreams. We talk about the incredible role her faith has had in her life and how she discovered her superpower of helping others identify their dreams and get them onto their next level path to achieving that success. I hope you enjoy this episode and be sure to check out the show notes to connect with Debby on social media, visit her website, and book your free dream discovery call with Debby. All right, friends, here we go. God's Word is powerful. The missing link is our identity in Christ. When we know who we are and who He created us to be, that is when we can truly walk in freedom. You are never alone. There is hope, and that hope is Jesus Christ. Debby, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It is such an awesome pleasure to have you here. I cannot wait for our listeners to hear this conversation, to hear about all the amazing stuff we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, do me a favor, for any of our listeners who may not be familiar with you, give us a little introduction.
Oh, thank you so much. My name is Debby Krusz. I am a dream pollinator, which I help people find the dreams that are on their heart and help them ignite the fire within and be the true version of themselves that God has created you to be.
I love that so much. A dream pollinator, that makes me very excited. And I love that you talk about the fact that it is helping to ignite that fire within them and really helping them to break out of whatever they're in to fully become the person that God created them to be. That is a huge passion of mine, as well as really helping people to draw closer into God so that they can become more of who He created them to be, so that they can really step into that person that He designed them to be. So that's just one more reason why I know this is going to be a fabulous conversation today. So one of my, or actually the favorite question I have to ask all of my guests is, how has your faith impacted your life?
Well, I mean, my faith is everything. And I learned right away when I was born. I just remember being born and being brought into this world and knowing that there was a divine reason. And I know it was confirmed because when you're little and you're explaining things to your family, and you're still learning language and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, she's just looking at pictures," but there was no pictures, and I could define what people were wearing. And I have an aunt that could tell you what you were wearing in 1962 at like those people that are like, that is not a lie because I know and how somebody's hair was. And we found out was that I remember my baptism. So I remember the act of that transition, and it felt like just coming out of water. But I remember being kind of tossed around, and I knew I was here for a reason. And there were so many things that didn't make sense, where it's like I felt a direct line of God always speaking to me. And then people are like, "Well, that's wrong." And I'm like, "Well, I must not be listening correctly." Or, so you're always questioning yourself, and you're young and nobody really is understanding that. So it was confusing, but I always knew to stay in faith. And what I find interesting now in my life as an adult, and my friends that have children, I'm in so many prayer groups that are really basically mom groups that are in prayer, there's wonderful. I love all of them, and most of the conversation comes back to, I'm so worried about my child. I'm so worried about their faith and get them to church. And I'm like, well, let's, back up, let's look at, you're good people. You're sitting here voluntarily in a prayer group. You go to church, you bring your kids to church. Most of them go to Catholic school. And, just let them be. And that my parents always felt my faith, and they have faith. And they were like, we never forced you to go to church. We never forced a relationship with you, with God. We had faith in your faith in God. And they gave me this choice after I made my confirmation of, it's up to you if you want to go to church or not. Your relationship with God you have, and we're no longer responsible for bringing you to church. You can get yourself there and all of those things. And I never stopped. And I think I probably went more. I think I went to daily mass more, church. I did break off later on in life for an extremely short period of time. And it brought me back stronger. It just really, really did. And we had this priest from Ireland that was retired, and he just prayed of where God would lead him. And they led him to our parish in the United States, in Larchmont, New York, And he's like, I'm here for a mission. And when I didn't even know this about him till a long while after I met him, but I knew he was there for me. Like, I knew that he was a reason for me to bring back to faith. And he brought me into so many programs. He sent me on a pilgrimage to Rome, and, brought me into the Emmanuel community, which is a fraternity of the church and just keeps you close to the Holy Spirit and, just closer to God in prayer. And I made the choice much more after that of leaving my corporate job, because I was just finally was really in tune to listening what God was telling me. And I was in this horrible job, making a lot of money, had a big fancy title, and that's the answer. That's the answer. And I'm like, I'm crying the second I leave to the second I have to go back. The car ride is 2 hours there and back on a good day, and I'm miserable, and this isn't the way to live. And God just said, start writing, and I did, and it took me to a million wonderful destinations, and I couldn't be more grateful. And I don't live in faith. I'm no longer chasing money, and no longer chasing a title, no longer chasing the relationship and all those things. I'm just not chasing. I'm living. I keep getting be still all the time. So just be still when you are in those moments and relying on your faith. And when you're rich in faith, you learn just like you don't need anything. Your possessions don't really mean anything. And it's so much easier to let go of things that you're like, this is so important to me and I have to have it. And it's like, it's a thing.
Oh, Debbie, I knew this was going to be a good conversation. I mean, anyway, but as I'm listening to you, so there were three things as you were talking about your experiences, three things that came up that really, really touched me at my core as well. Number one, the relationship versus religion. We tend to get stuck in the constructs of the rules of religion. Do this, do this, do this. Almost like a checklist. Did you do this today? Did you do this today? Did you do this today? And when we get so focused on the to-do list, we tend to not put as much focus on the relationship, our relationship with our Creator, being in relationship with Him, with the Holy Spirit, being able to hear from Him, being able to have that conversation that strengthens our faith, because we can read the Word and let the Word speak to us. We can sit in prayer and make our request known to God, but also at the same time be still and be able to hear, what is coming into us from the Holy Spirit. So that was one thing. And then the second thing was the corporate misery, because I share that same story of corporate misery. I was in a job in corporate for 13 years, and it was really good up until about the last year or so. Things really started to decline for me personally, which was interesting. The situation began to decline as my career was going up, right? So I'd been promoted and I was making more money than I'd ever made, and, all the things. And, oh, yeah, that's supposed to be so great. And I was like, I can't handle this. Not because the job is too much for me, but because the environment had become toxic for me. And the stress that I was under, like my hair actually started to fall out. And every turn I was met with a wall. And I was like, God, I don't understand what is going on. And he's like, well, Crystal, because I told you to leave. It's time for you to go. Like, you're done here. And so the longer you stay, the more frustration you're going to face because you don't belong here anymore. I need you to do something else.
Yes.
And then the last thing that you were just talking about, all of the stuff, all of the things. And when you're rich in faith, you realize that you don't really need the stuff because God has given us exactly what he has promised us, which is enough for today, our daily bread. And so now we have like loads of things to talk about for the rest of our conversation, but
Love it.
those three things there really just kind of stood out to me. And I think a lot of other people will relate to those three topics in particular.
Yes. And I love that, you had that experience because what I learned through this whole journey and what I took away from it and what I've created is learning, you walked away, I walked away because we listened to God, and not everybody has that strength, and that is hard. And what I learned in this faith journey is, okay, I did a lot of work and I did a lot of good, and let's focus on what made people happy, what was really rewarding. And what I realized, what was rewarding was finding that in people, being like, this person is miserable every day. Why is this person miserable when they come to work? Why am I going to fire this person? There's nothing wrong. Because the person's in the wrong job. This person's unhappy because they're in the wrong job. These people aren't doing well because they're not fulfilled in their life and they are not following their dreams. So being able to say, I know that there's something stirring in me, and I didn't know, I didn't understand what it was, but I knew that I could see it in other people. And so I took a team of 25 people that were on the way to being fired. And I'm like, this isn't their fault. This is our fault. And there's a piece of it that's their fault too. But at the same time, they're in the wrong jobs. We didn't give them the right tools. I'm going to turn that around because I don't want to sit in another room and say, I'm sorry, but I have to let you go. Because after a while, that broke me. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. So I took these 25 people. I'm like, I'm going to give you every tool, every resource. I'm going to give you the people. I want you to tell me what you want to do. If you were sorting mail and you want to be a doctor, I want you to be a doctor, and let's get you there. And people are like, oh my God. And now all of a sudden they're like the greatest mail person, but at the same time, they are fulfilling their dream to get themselves to be a doctor. I said, you have 1 year. And I'm going to do everything I can to make you in your next level, whatever that looks like. And in like 6 to 9 months, 25 on their way.
Wow.
Next 25, go to another company, bigger droves of groups and people. And I realized in like a 4-year span, I had put over 500 people into their next level, into their path.
Wow.
And I was like, looked back and I realized, when I was little, I was like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. And everyone's like, you can't be a doctor. Like, you can't even stand the sight of blood. Like, no. But I saw myself in a doctor's jacket and I was like, I'm a doctor. But there was so much no that I'm like, well, there must be something wrong with me because this is the voice that I'm hearing of God, and nobody else can see it, so I must be wrong. So it questioned my faith. But as life moved on, all of a sudden I get called to do this job in healthcare, and I'm like, oh, excuse me, by the way, I don't think this is a great idea because I really can't live in taking, like, looking at blood. So I went into a job where it was all phlebotomy centers, which is taking blood all day and talking about blood all day and tossing blood around. And hey, here's a whole bunch of samples of blood. Oh, you didn't even hold your hand while you're taking blood? That's great. So, it was that push of God's like, I need you to see this because it's like, this isn't it, but there's something about being a part of it. And, going through this journey of getting here, it was like, it's not healthcare, it's not being a doctor, but it's healing people, it's healing hearts, it's healing what is inside of somebody. And you don't have to be a doctor. But if I didn't go through that path, I wouldn't have known that. So you might have a vision of, with the famous story is, a middle-aged man that wants to be an MLB player, but never played baseball in his life, and, is determined to do it. So of course, everybody's answer is no. The answer isn't no. The answer is that's how he sees it. That's what he sees, his vision. But there's 100 aspects to what that looks like and what that means. So you might say no to yourself. You already dream crushed yourself. You already told your faith no. You didn't say, faith, show me what it looks like. You didn't dig in deeper, and that's okay. You didn't realize that. You didn't think that. You didn't realize that. But that's where I learned in my faith of, I just have to help somebody see their own faith and see what's in their heart to find what it is. So that famous story of that man wants to be an MLB player. Well, what is it about it? Is it the recognition? Is it the fame? Is it the quick home runs? Is it going, traveling, being in different places, meeting different people? Is it shaking hands? What is it? Turned out it was a lot of those elements. It was like, I love a good quick win. I love a good pat on the back. I love working in a team environment. I do love the travel. So it got him into a high-end project manager job where there's lots of quick hits and then the big hit and then move on to the next exciting thing. And being on a team where you're like, hey, I'm a team leader and I'm driving this mission, and being in an environment where you're just always in a happy, cheering, moving on place. And that was his MLB moment. So I'm like, there's no such thing as dream crushing. It's just, let's just relook at what it looks like and let's figure that out.
That's so important because, like you said, for many of us, our brains can only give us what they can give us,
And what they know.
as we are trying to process through, and we are trying to figure out, well, what do you want? That's every kid gets asked that. Every parent, every adult person will ask any child, especially when they're like in first grade, what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay, which is so funny to me because I look at that from two different perspectives. One, the first grader actually knows what they want to be when they grow up. Like they actually know because they are not hindered by all of the limiting beliefs and the negative self-talk and all of the garbage that the world dumps on us. So they actually know. But then I look at it from another perspective, from an adult perspective, I guess, and I'm like, how can a 6-year-old have any clue what they want to be when they grow up? And so it's so interesting because our 6-year-old mind knows what that is, and even as I'm talking through this, and my guest last week, Kevin Keppel, I shared the story with him that when I was little, like 4, 5, 6 years old, I wanted to be Tina Turner. I wanted to be her because I thought she was amazing and she just had so much energy and I loved her hair and just like her costumes, and she was on stage and all of these things. She was so exciting to me and I wanted to be her. And my mom kind of said, no, like, like it's not really how that works, but, and also kind of this idea of singing, movies, entertainment, that kind of stuff. Like, that's not like a real job. I kind of should go to school, go to college and get a real job,
Yeah.
something that is sensible and stable and well meaning, of course, absolutely well meaning. However, as I think about things now, and that actually put me on this path where I was really, really big, like this big personality, and I shrunk myself down really, really small
Yeah.
to fit into places, um, to not be noticed, just to kind of, I was happy to be in the background at that point because I kind of felt like that's where I belonged. And then when you fast forward 2 decades and all of the garbage that gets dumped on you, and then I started working with someone who's absolutely fabulous, who kind of helped me to see, yeah, Crystal, what did you want to be when you were little? Like, for real, what did you want to be? I was like, I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be in front of people and making people feel good. Because that's what entertainment is, right? It
Right.
makes us feel good. It brings us joy. It does cool things with our emotions. We get involved in it. And it wasn't until that point where I started to realize that I I had a fear of public speaking,
Mm.
which is really crazy because at that moment I realized that that's exactly what I wanted to do, was to be on stage and to speak in front of people. And so coming from someone who was like, I'm terrified to be in front of anyone, to knowing that that's what that is, same thing like what you're doing. It's taking that place and really getting back to seeing, what is that dream? And then
Yes.
how do we make that come? Because I can't be Tina Turner. I mean, she's still fabulous, but like that, like I can't actually do that. But what can I do? I can get on stage. I can use my voice because that is what God has gifted me with. He has given me a voice that is going to be and is an instrument to help other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. You saw the impact of Tina Turner to you and your life, and how mesmerized you were by her strength inside and her confidence. And you learn her story and you're like, wow, you were a pretty dynamic person. And that is faith, to believe in yourself. And you saw that and you felt it. And look at how the world's tried to crush it,
Yeah.
and it's just, unveiling the layers of, I want the impact. I want to be in front of people. I want to make people happy. And you found it. It's yours. It belongs to you. It will find you. You just have to be open and listening and know what it looks like and not be afraid. And I do this experiment with people when they come to me and they are like, oh, I don't want to have the faith that you have, and oh my gosh, I can't. It's like, you do. You absolutely do. Just don't put me on a pedestal for that. I don't. Like, you have it, just don't realize it. Don't know how to use it. So I tell people, say, I want you to do this simple experiment. Okay. Just say, I want to see a yellow butterfly in 48 hours, and write it down. Be like, I know I'm going to see a butterfly in 48 hours. I believe it. I trust it. Just wipe your hands of it and walk away from it. So don't, I leave it at that. Now I'm going to give away the whole thing. But then, people get frustrated and are like, well, the clock is ticking. And it's like, well, you're pushing it away by just being obsessed with it, and just you're like, I can't wait for it to not happen, which
Yeah.
is saying, I would, I'm going to fight faith. And I've done this so many times in my life. Like, I'm going to prove I believe in God, but I know that he's not watching me. I know that he's not going to give it to me, and I was fighting, like, look at how it's not going to happen. Instead of, why don't you turn it around and say, I believe in God. I know God is for me. Why wouldn't he send me a yellow butterfly? I didn't ask for a check for $1 million. Not that I couldn't ask for that, but why wouldn't he send me? There's a gazillion butterflies everywhere. Why?
That's right.
Why wouldn't he? And the second I said that to myself when I first did it, somebody that I had just met, didn't really know anything about her. We had like a quick conversation, and she just said, I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to share this Instagram and tag you on it. and it was a hand painting of a yellow butterfly. And, when you just send this to people, they're like, oh my God. And I sat with a brand new friend. She was new in town. She's like, can you just show me around? So I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm telling the same story. And we go to sit at a local bar just to like catch up and learn about each other. And these two guys were there, and somehow he said something, and he opens up his phone. He goes, I want to show you the coolest thing. I just caught in a jar like this yellow butterfly. And she's like, oh, jumped up. She's like, oh my God. So start with these simple things of, God, I trust in you. And I know you're always going to provide for me. And I know you're always give me something. I'm not testing you. I'm asking to strengthen me in faith. It's the verbiage and how you say it. And I saw a great thing with Steve Harvey yesterday, where he's like, it is about the verbiage. It is about how you ask for prayers. You're not, it's not demanding. It's not give me this. It's, he would say, I don't want to be fat anymore. And it's just, he kept saying fat, and he just was like, this is disgusting and I don't feel good. Instead of, God, I no longer feel comfortable in my body. Please help guide me on how to be lean. I want to feel lean. I want to be lean. And he's like, as soon as I started changing the way I was speaking, I started to slim down and I started to feel lean, and it helped me praise it better. So the negative words and the negative jabs we give at ourselves, those push you away from your faith, that pushes you away from your confidence, that pushes you away from those good things to come to you. And I'm sure we all have a group of girlfriends that I have to join the circle, and I have to say one negative thing about myself, join the group. And it's like, I'm no longer going to be part of those groups. It's like, you don't understand, like you're just bringing and festering misery. So why don't you change that around? Don't fester in the misery, fester in the positivity. Be like, you know what? I feel beautiful today. You look beautiful too. What's up, ladies? Why can't you start with that instead of like, oh yeah, I feel so bad. Like, let's go get like donuts and lattes. Like, no.
Oh, you are so right. And it's not only the words that we are using, but it's the intention behind our words too. Just to your exact point. And I mean, this is biblical. There is life and death in the tongue, and those who love it will eat the fruit thereof. If you are going to speak essentially death out of your mouth, which is all things negative, which is, I feel like crap, and I don't like this, and I don't like that, and this is always bad, and nothing ever goes my way. And, and that is your constant, that's your
mantra.
Yes, that is your constant mantra. That is what you are constantly and continually telling yourself. Well, what you seek is what you will find. And if that's where your mindset is all the time, that everything's bad, nothing's good, that it's all just blah, 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 then that is what you will continue to find. Several years ago, I don't even know how many now, probably 5 or 6, I started my own gratitude practice. And because I realized when I started going through this transformation that my thoughts were very negative, and they were extremely negative about myself. But they were also negative about a lot of other things, which was really kind of funny because I was an overall positive, happy person, right? People would interact with me because I had this, I was like this great little bubble of sunshine. But on the inside, I was like, yeah, the whole world sucks. And so do I, and so that's a whole different thing. But I was introduced to the thought of gratitude and how gratitude can change your life. And so I was like, okay, well, this is dumb, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right. Again, there is that battle in there. And I was like, all right, what 5 things can you be grateful for today? And when I started, truth, when I started, I was like, 5 things for real? Like, I don't have 5 things. And which is so crazy to me now, because now when I wake up in the morning, the very first thing I do is, all right, God, thanks. Like, thank you for another day. I start my day there now. But in the beginning, it was really, really hard to find 5 things.
Yeah.
But I would look for them. Like, I would give myself all day, find 5 things, 5 things that you can be grateful for. Oh, I found a parking spot. I didn't have to walk half a mile. Like, oh, I caught a green light. I mean, traffic was a horrible thing for me at that point in time in my life. So for me, trying to find those
Yeah.
little tiny things. And that's another thing I hope our listeners understand. Like, it's okay. It's okay to find the tiny, small things that you can be grateful for that only matter to you,
Yeah.
because God gave those just to you, to show you, like you say, it's not testing God. If we would understand how much God loves to give us the things that make us happy, that really make us happy. I'm not talking about like, oh, God, give me a bunch of money so I don't have to work. But for me, it's the sunset. It's getting to see different butterflies. Like, I love butterflies. And so God will send them to me just periodically or randomly. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, that's so awesome, because I get to watch it and it makes me happy. And that brings joy to my heart. That brings joy to God's heart too.
Yeah.
So, as Debbie, as you work with different people in trying to help them reconnect with their dreams, and those dreams that God has put in their hearts, how do you go about that? I know you have a dream pollination program, and so I want our listeners, like, that intrigues me. The name intrigues me. So I want our listeners to learn a little bit more about that.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. Yeah, so just like we talked about your relationship with butterflies, and butterflies are beautiful and they just reinvent themselves, right? They go through this, I'm a little squirmy thing, and then you're like uncomfortable, and then it's like getting through that uncomfortable, and then you become this beautiful thing that just brings all this beauty and joy to everything around us. And decided to call myself the dream pollinator because I felt like dreams are so important, and what they mean to us. And I let my dreams sit on the shelf too many times. But I also, in this journey, dug so deep into myself as to learn what the meaning of my name was. And so Devorah in Hebrew means the bee seeker. So the woman that is always seeking what's best inside of other people, that's what bees do. And bees are pretty impossible. They're scientifically impossible. They don't want to bother you. They're like, I just want to work behind the scenes and make sure everything is pretty and then beautiful and for you to be successful. And I look at it as their belief is, if everything around you is beautiful and I can help you do that and make that for you and give you little things to nourish you, that is encouragement for you to be the best version of yourself. So I call myself the dream pollinator because I believe in that. Like, I love fulfilling my dreams. I love being able to see what my dreams are and work on making them happen and evolve them. And when they don't work out, be like, something better just came out of that. So I believe in just using the bee philosophy, and I just help people become the best version of themselves. And I do that by just igniting that fire inside of, what are your dreams? Like, tell me what your dreams are. What is it that you want to be? And a lot of people want to fight me and do the MLB player, I want to be a rocket scientist, but I'm 70. It's like, all right, well, let's define what that looks like. People want to make, again, I want to fight you on faith. I want to fight you on your theory, and I want to fight you because you can't help me. And it's like, you're right, I can't help you. You can help yourself, and you could just listen to me and let me give you the tools that you need to get there. And we had spoke a few minutes about the chosen, and obviously the chosen, if people don't know, is based off of the Bible stories, and they really come to life. And the producer, Dallas Jenkins, he says very often, like, I didn't ask you to feed the 5,000. I asked you to do the best you can to bring the loaves of bread and fish. That's all I ask. Show up. Show up. And that's what Jesus asks us, just show up and do the best you can to bring the loaves of bread and fish, and I'll take care of the rest. I have somebody that her dream is this summer house, and it's, a family heirloom, and, it's not exactly their family line, but they've spent so many summers there. And she's like, I just want it. Like, I don't have the money. Like, the answer is always like, I can't, I don't, the money, the da 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 da. And it's like, okay, let's throw all of that away. Does this house belong to you? She's like, it does. It belongs to me. It's my house. I know it's my house. Okay, then that's it. That's all you need to do. You need to know that that's your house. So what is it that you can do in the meantime? Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we get a savings account or a jar, and let's start small. Let's put $1 in every day. Let's wait till we get to $100. Let's put the $100 in the bank. Then let's see if we can up it to $10 a week. And then let's wait till we get to $1,000. Let's take that $1,000 and put it into some sort of investment of some sort. Like, let's build it and just say, praise it. I know this is going towards my family house. I see it. I could feel it. I could do it. And just the act of doing it, if it's yours, you're just showing up. I'm showing up. I'm believing it. I'm seeing myself in the house. I'm doing my effort that I can only give $1 a week, $1 a day, whatever that looks like for you. I'm giving this to this dream because I know that God's going to give it to me. And you'll be surprised at how that house will come to you, or something better, or something more. And just be open to how God's going to bless you, and just be excited about it. And those are the stories that are fun, of me telling this story, and then somebody coming to me up in the supermarket, which just seems to be like aisle 5, seems to be like my highlight of where all that stuff comes. Like, oh, okay. Not realizing that people are listening, and they're like, I did that. And oh my gosh, like we went on this dream vacation. Oh, I wanted this car, and I started to do it. And then all of a sudden, my neighbor got sick, and I took on the car, and it's exactly what I wanted. And, like, all these things evolve if you have faith. It's all it is. I'm just showing you a different angle on how to have faith in yourself, and just know that faith was given to you for a reason, and you were divinely made for your dream, not for somebody else's dream. But you can only see what you could see.
Absolutely.
So look inside and look deeper. Yeah.
And you bring up such a great point, especially this was something that I had to work through myself, letting go of the how.
Yes. That's
it's my job to decipher through and understand the what. What is God calling me? What do I feel like he is telling me that, he wants me to do? For what purpose has he created me to be in this particular season of my life? And then why? Like, why is that? And even applying that into things like paying off debt, or things that are part of our like daily life, our everyday stuff. Understanding the why behind that. Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to be on stage? Well, because I believe that being on stage is fulfilling the calling that God has put on my life for this season, for this particular season. And stuff will come from that. Yeah, absolutely. But that's not why I'm doing it. Like, I don't want to be on stage so that I can make money. I believe that God will provide for me financially one way or another. Even if it's not from speaking on stage, he'll provide for me because that's what he does. He's my provider. As long as I am moving in and operating in his will, he is going to provide for me. But the reason why I want to do it is because I want to fulfill what he's called me to do. Absolutely. And then I have to say, God, this is what I believe you're telling me. And my heart is pure in the why that I want to do it, because I want to do it for you. And so now I have to let go and trust you with the how.
Yeah, absolutely. And we fall into traps of money. Like, why am I in debt? Oh, I got myself here again. Because it's your way of pushing yourself into, I can't, or God, I'm not good enough, or God not going to give this to me. And I help people get rid of those blocks. Like, I am broke. I'm never going to be able to get out of this. I have to keep my job, blah, blah, blah. Well, let's work on how to get your finances in order. And I have a gazillion resources. Why can't I use them? I have a gazillion resources. I know how to get you out of debt. You need to go back to school. I know how to get you there. You need a better job. I know how to get you there. You need to get into good health. I know how to get you there. You need to get spiritually connected. I know how to get you there. And I have more than one way. I don't think there's an ABC. Everybody is different and uniquely made. I just have all these tools that I want you to have, and I'll help you get on a path, but it's up to you. You got to take it. I could just be the resource to get you there and get you organized and put you on it. But it's a fun and exciting journey. And I really do enjoy working with people and just watching one dream at a time. Right.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Debbie, how can our listeners get connected with you after this podcast?
Oh, thank you for asking. I am trying to be as easy as possible to find. So I keep my tag as Debby Krusz. So DEBBYKRUSZ. And that's at Instagram, at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And my website is the same, debbykrusz.com, DEBBYKRUSZ.com. And I would love to offer all of your listeners a free discovery call on what your dreams look like. And let's see what we could do to get you there, as well as a free download of my last novel, Soul Meets Body.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I will make sure that all of that information is down in our show notes so that our listeners can find you quick and easy, and they can take advantage of the free consultation. They can grab that free download of your book, Soul Meets Body. And it has just been an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you today, Debbie. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh, thank you so much, Crystal. I really enjoyed it.
Hey friend, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It's my pleasure as always to be here with you. If what you listened to today resonated with you, if you enjoyed listening to the show, do me a favor. Go ahead and like and subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. Those reviews are so helpful. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate each and every single one of them. And go ahead and share this episode out with a friend. Invite them along for a walk through the Word, and let's enjoy that daily bread together. See you tomorrow.